Now, without further ado, thank you for watching Sportsbook Review Episode 2 of the Jimmy the Bag Show. It is my absolute honor and privilege to introduce, known as the Godfather of Canadian stand-up comedy, we have Kenny Robinson in the house. Kenny Robinson, thank you so much for joining me, my guy.
Man, you got all the numbers and facts and figures, and are you still a fan, or are you just as degenerate here with all the bets?
I'm mostly a degenerate.
Yeah, I figured that.
I am mostly a degenerate. Kenny Robinson, man, known as the Godfather of Canadian comedy. First off, the show you've hosted for the last 30 years, sold out for 30 years, the hottest show in Canadian comedy, in the history of Canadian comedy, the Nubian Disciples of Pryor. Tell the low baggers a little bit about that show.
Basically, it started out as when we started. It was 25 years ago this April. We only had maybe like 3 or 4 comics of color in the whole country. So there were also the gatekeepers were kind of slow to open up the gates. So I was approached by Mark Breslin, who owns Yuck Yuck, said, could you put together a show that would change this? And I had considered doing that already because I'd done a couple of predominantly black shows with hip-hop acts, and I saw that there was a market. Then I found out there was a talent pool. So we were off and running. Our first show, we turned away 200 people, and we've been making history ever since. You know, the Raptors, we started the first same year as the Raptors. So we used to have a lot of the Raptors in the audience, and anybody that was making movies in town. We had people like Tommy Davidson come in, see the show, jump on stage. Dave Chappelle's done it while in town filming. Let's see who else we had. We had Vivica Fox and Will Smith and that crew. They were in town filming, so we had them in the audience. Zeke used to come and see all the. Back when he was a general manager of the Raptors before he moved on, Isaiah Thomas. So we had him in the audience many times. So we've been fortunate.
Fortunate. You guys have earned everything that you've gotten. Kenny Robinson also hosted the Gemini Awards in 1998. That's our Oscars. He was given the Phil Hartman Award at the Canadian Comedy Awards.
Yeah, that one makes me nervous because everybody else received it has passed away. So I thought, I was like, is this the Dead Man Walking Award or what? You know, so I'm still very proud of that. But it's an honor, as all awards are.
Yeah, and you've done everything. You've had your own show on the Comedy Network. You've hosted the Flow Hip Hop and R&B radio station. You were their host. You've done a lot, but you're also a giant baseball fan.
Fanatic. Hockey to some extent, but baseball been very, very good to me. That's my game. You know, that's my son's game. He's still trying on. He's still hoping he can play for the Humber. He goes to Humber College. He's still wanting to play for the Humber team. He regrets not being a pitcher now, but he was a catcher, and then knees from goaltending and catching forced him to move to first base, and now they move him all over the field now.
I've met your son. He's a good kid, man. I like him a lot. Philip Fernandez says, I miss living in Canada. We miss you, Philippe. All right, let's talk about the biggest story in baseball right now. I really want to hear your angle on it. The sign-stealing fiasco of the Houston Astros. Where do you judge that in a cheating scandal in baseball history? And what do you think? Do you think that we've given them proper punishment?
Well, I mean, sign stealing has always been a part of the game. So I don't understand the whole outrage about it. You know, catchers, they go and they change their signs. They have, they learn to, as a kid, I learned that when I was watching the Chicago Cubs every day in the 60s and 70s, I learned that when Randy Huntley would sweep the ground in front of him while squatting with his mitt, that was a signal for the changeup. So I learned that at 9, 10 years old watching the game. So, I mean, signs are supposed to be stolen. That's why the coaches have so many different ones to throw them off. Now we live in a high-tech society. I mean, who remembers anybody's phone number anymore? Who goes to a bank or who writes a check anymore? Everything is automated. So the fact they figured out how to steal from cameras in the center field fence, they used to think on regularly that the guys were in the old scoreboard flashing signs in. So So to me, it's as much of a part of the game as a spitball or foreign object or pine tar on the ball or scuffing or whatever. It's illegal, but it's just part of the game.
So you think the punishment is too much?
Oh, I mean, the coaches and general managers that were fired and involved, they'll probably never get jobs again. So in the same breath, Pete Rose is saying, hey, if these guys who cheated, they can. If they're out, then how come I can't get back in? And I think Pete Rose is the best 3,000 hit guy that's not a member of the Hall.
I agree. So let's go to Pete Rose and his gambling. He was always betting on his team to win. Let's start talking about the Hall of Fame. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, you have to consider that when they banned gambling, Kaminsky, who owned the White Sox, he promised his players things and chiseled them and cheated them and was a tightwad. So there's a reason why they had to go and break the sacred code and throw the game. But the game's changed since then. So is the paychecks and the salaries. So I think it's time that they make an exception. I mean, I don't have a problem with steroid hitters. You know, after the strikes and everything with baseball that hurt, what made the fans come back? Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Palmeiro, everybody, Barry Bonds. You know, as the Atlanta Braves used to have this the commercial slogan for when they'd advertise on Turner Broadcasting, chicks dig the long ball. You know, the home run underneath the steroid era, it saved the game for us. And let's be honest, most people don't want to see a 2-to-1 pitchers duel, even though I've been fortunate to see a few of them in my life. So, you know, I don't have a problem with, Barry Bonds. Hey, did he hit the home? Was he going to be a Hall of Famer before that? Sure he was. The record was up there. So, you know, maybe I'm a traditionalist. No, but I'm a minimalist. I say, put him in.
So do you think that the Hall of Fame with this integrity rule is tarnishing the Hall of Fame?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think the Hall of Fame, one thing about the Hall of Fame, it's not like hockey. It still wants to be the Hall of Fame, you know, as opposed to the Hall of Pretty Good. It seems like there's I'm always raising my eyebrows over the NHL Hall of Fame new membership every year. It's like, was he that good? Did he say it? You know, but they slide him in. You know, Kurt Flood. He challenged the free agency clause. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Dick Allen. I think he should be a Hall of Famer. My friend Harry Dupe, he'll argue with me and debate it and say he was very good, but not Hall of Fame numbers. So I think they may have the integrity clause, but I think of all the Hall of Fames, I think that Major League Baseball probably does have the toughest Hall of Fame to get into.
I agree. I mean,
Clemens, or the rumor or whatever he did with what he took, is Roger Clemens not a great pitcher just despite what he did?
No, I think that I don't think that human growth hormone is necessarily bad, and we had Rob Pugh talking about it yesterday about how he thinks it heals you faster from injuries if it's
But does it affect your eye-hand coordination? No. Does it give you a bit more pop? You still got to connect with the ball to make it fly.
All right, I think I agree with you. I do not think that Bonds and Roger Clemens are going to get in because there's 85-year-old white guys hoarding over the Hall of Fame as their special little club, and they don't want. They want people to be embarrassed. They want people to be called out. They sit in this holier-than-thou spot, and so I don't think they're going to get in. Do you think they're going to get in?
Probably not. I mean, they're nailed to the cross. It's it's like Sammy Sosa. I'm surprised how despised he is by many Cub fans. But there was times when Cub fans had nothing else to cheer except for Sammy hitting 3 home runs in a game that they lost 9-5. So but I think the old guard in baseball has started. I mean, with everything, the old die and the young take over. So it all matters of what they will the millennials eventually voting these players in? Yes. I'll have passed on by that time, but we'll have new players for them to consider their worthiness at that point.
I hear you. Well, let's talk about one other big thing in baseball: automated umpires, robot umpires. You're an old school baseball guy. You want them?
No. I don't even know if I like the appeal. You know, what else? If you have a robot umpire, then you have nothing to scream and cry about for the next 30 years. Remember the umpire that made the bad call and the kid that had the perfect game and he called him out at first?
Yeah.
And every replay showed that he beat him out. Okay, so for the rest of your life as a baseball fan, you can say, remember that time when the ump blew it? Kill the umpire. You can't kill a robot. Well, I mean, unless it's Arnold. But I mean, I like it. I like the human error in effect. Otherwise, why not just have a pitching machine? So that way a pitching machine never grooves or leaves that curve hanging over the plate.
No, I feel you. But do you think human error should be such a big part of the sport?
Yes, because it's humans playing it. It's always been, boo, hate the umpire, three blind mice. You always have to, it's like when the Raptors lost yesterday, when the streak was broken, 15 games is incredible. Somebody was saying, well, blame the refs. Well, you know what? Blame the refs or blame the Raps for maybe tired.
Yeah, they did not look good.
Yeah, so, you can't blame the refs. Sometimes human error is important to make it. I mean, I'd rather know if a plane crashes, it was because of pilot error than that there's something wrong with the entire line of planes that we're getting onto.
I never thought of that angle.
I'd rather think one guy woke up, hungover, didn't do what he was supposed to do, bang, as opposed to, didn't you know that all the bolts on are tight and anybody's plane could go down? In fact, we expect more planes. Human error works best.
No, I like that. I like the human error. Okay, I've got a big question. I'm very interested to hear your opinion on. Is Colin Kaepernick a hero?
To me, he is. I have a friend of mine, good friend in Winnipeg, Patty Doyle. We argue back and forth. He goes, he wasn't. He was a taxi squad quarterback at best, which is not true. And I'm not one of these people that think that he can still come back and play in the NFL now after 3 years not playing. But he took a stand. And, some can say, well, he only took the stand when he wasn't going to be a starter anymore. He could have still, the Bears were looking at some guy that retired they're trying to bring Cutler back after retirement, and he was no good in that. So I think, when we live in a day and age when very few athletes stand up for anything. It's not like the days when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Muhammad Ali or Jim Brown would step up for something. So I think I'd rather read about that as opposed to somebody getting busted driving while coked up, or somebody slapping a waitress that spilled a drink, or any of the other things that the scandal that professional athletes can fall into. I love a cat with a consciousness.
I hear that exactly. I like someone who has a consciousness, who's trying to make change. But how did you handle, because a lot of white people who want to say bad things about Kaepernick but don't want to sound like they're being prejudiced or racist, they'll say things like, well, he said he didn't vote. He said it was hypocritical to vote. Why
That's
would
his
he?
Choice. People died for the right to vote, and they also died for the right for you not to have to vote. Voting is not compulsory. So if he wasn't happy with any of the candidates or didn't think any of them were the answer, if he said, he had the attitude, I forget who just pinned it now, but let's not sit here arguing about which one of these are the better slave owners. So that's the attitude that he's adopted. So I got to give him points for that. Some people say, well, why not do it off the field well, you don't pay attention off the field. You don't care. But when your game is affected or delayed, then all of a sudden it's like with the Aboriginals that are blocking the train lines now. If they weren't doing that, nobody'd even care about what was happening or the issue. And then people say, well, that's not going to help your cause. When you say that, that tells me that you weren't sympathetic towards the cause to begin with. So I think it's a great thing that Cap did. What I did love, though, was when he was still kneeling and there were players that were scared to kneel, but they stood next to him. It's like, yo, dog, I'm with you. But I can't. I'm barely made the team. I can't kneel with you, man. I don't want to wind up in the CFL returning punts in Saskatchewan. Okay, so I'll just bow my head with you. So he had players that supported him, but they weren't about to put their income on the line. And this guy did. And then Nike, they embraced him. Nike is a big corporation. You could say they make. They have children making shoes. I think a lot of kids need to earn their allowance. But the point is, the big corporate America still embraces him despite because he is a hero, despite what the naysayers may say.
Football needs heroes because they have a lot of criminals.
Yeah, and that's not even the Raiders. Once upon a time, you couldn't be a Raider unless you had a criminal record. And now you can be on any of the team. I was happy when the Kansas City Chiefs won. And then I read that their quarterbacks supported Zimmerman shooting Trayvon Martin. So I'm going, wow, doesn't that one suck big apples when you're not paying close attention to what your heroes are saying? I tried to give the guy a break because his dad pitched for the Cubs and the Blue Jays, but he was under 500.
He was under 500. And if you look, I mean, how could a 23-year-old superstar quarterback be balls deep in such a nasty looking chick, man? I don't. If I was Patrick Mahomes, man, I mean, I'm gonna have to jerk and choke about that later tonight. Would I be able to hook up? I can't believe how heinous and annoying his girlfriend is. So you heard.
But at least when he's caught doing a Tiger Woods, you'll have an idea why.
Yes. I will definitely know why. I'll definitely know why. You heard about the Ohio State situation?
Yeah, right? 2 players are accused of kidnap and rape, which. The kidnap is a whole different angle. I haven't had a chance to really look into it much, but they're not even in the NFL yet. They're pro football ready by doing that, but but college football players been getting a walking pass for that for years. So when you consider how many players have had those kind of charges or they've been shielded, I mean, even in the NHL, they're always charging, or every town has a junior hockey team where they have a puck bunny, as they like to call the girls that hang out with the teams, or not even that, but a girl gets 3 or 4 guys maybe against her wishes or against her ability to say no because she's been had too much to drink, and the town and the locals, they sweep it under the rug because it's hockey. Yeah. I mean, what was it? Was it Lemieux that kept one woman occupied while his buddy raped a girlfriend in the adjoining room, and the other guy was cut? I think maybe, but this goes back 15, 20 years. So I mean, the NHL, they as much as Hollywood and as much as any other sports thing, they were always able to sweep this kind of thing under the carpet.
No, I hear you. It's a long-standing thing in this country of that happening with the hockey players for sure. Robert Allen in the house, Gertwar, Hashani, Viper MB, Rocco, Trotwam. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm here with Canadian comedy legend Kenny Robinson. So let's talk about the color barrier in hockey. We have Willie O'Ree break the color barrier in 1958. The difference.
I think he only had one eye when he was playing too.
Yeah, he'd hid that. No one knew that.
Yeah, well, they wasn't gonna let We're sorry. We require that all of our Negroes have 2 eyes to play in this league. So he couldn't let it be known that he had one eye, and he broke the color barrier. But there was just a great my friend Kwame Mason has been doing a lot of things. He made the film Black Ice, a documentary on black hockey, and he was with the NHL. They have a Black History Month bus that's touring across North America, and I was lucky enough to go see it last week when it was at the Harry Gary Arena. And, Herb Carnegie, who I've met a couple of times, he's even a greater story than Herbie. I mean, Herbie was the first to break it, but Carnegie... Carnegie, he was the player that played in Quebec with Jean Beliveau, and Beliveau said this man was just as good as myself or anybody else in the league. He's the one that the owner of the Maple Leafs said, I'd pay $1 million to anybody that could invent a pill that would turn you white. Well, how's that supposed to make you feel at the end of the day? So I wish Toronto was more involved. I mean, we've got some great players of black background that come from Toronto that would love to see him in a Leafs uniform. Wayne Simmons, Scarborough kid, gotta love him. Drop the mitt, scores some goals every now and then. I love it when they threw the banana at him in London at the exhibition game right before he took the penalty shot. And what did he do? He put the puck in the net. That's old Jim Brown way of silencing your critics. P.K. Subban, after they traded him from Montreal, I remember Don Cherry, who loved him, but said he was uppity. And with the high-fiving that he used to do with Carey Price, they didn't like that kind of flamboyance. And so they trade him. So what did he do? He still stuck to his promise and to his pledge that he was going to raise $1 million for the sick kids hospital in Montreal. So he went and did that. Now he's with the Devils. So, it's unfortunate that the things didn't land out in Nashville, but he tried to be a good citizen and a good player while he was in Nashville. I thought it was interesting when he was with Team Canada, he had won the North Award for the best defenseman the year before, but when it was Olympic time, he got no ice time. They said because of his offensive chances that he was a risk. Well, how can a guy go from being the best defenseman in the league to not playing in this tournament that everybody's tuned in for? So things like that make you go,
No, I hear you. It's always been a part of hockey. It's always been a part of hockey because when Willie O'Ree came in 1958, there was not another black player in the NHL till 1974.
It was Marshall, right?
Marson, yeah.
Yeah. I met Val James the other night, who apparently I'd met before, and I remember when they brought him up to play for the Leafs, and basically they brought him up to drop the mitts. And I won't tell you the nicknames that the people I was watching the game with were yelling with excitement when he stepped on the ice. Number 28, he had it before Domi. But, they called him the big nig. Okay, that's what we said. And they go, wait, the big nig's on the ice. And they go all excited because the big black man, he's maybe like 5'8", 5'9", maybe 5'10". But at the time, the reputation and just the fact that the black boogeyman was stepping on the ice, that they were expecting him to just drop the gloves and go slap shot on everybody. And he's very soft-spoken.
Danny Menlo has a question in the chat. Danny's saying, what does Kenny think about the Don Cherry debacle? What do you think of Don Cherry getting fired for saying,
you people, those people, us people, no, you're talking about those people. I've been called worse than those people. I was sorry to see Don Cherry go, but his time had come. Saturday night, hockey night in Canada is like dating your sister's best friend without him. You tune in out of habit, but it's missing. It's gone. They can do all the highlight, profiles and everybody they want. But myself, as well as some other people, we tuned in every Saturday night to hear what he was going to say. Was he going to push the envelope? It's too bad that, Don just didn't, pass away in the summer at his cottage, and they could have taken him out on his shield. Sure. And then everybody would have said, man, I didn't always agree with him, but he sure never held back what he thought. So, and hey, despite everything else, Don Cherry told the defenseman not to block your goaltender, not to stick your stick in front of trying to block a shot, because that, he was all about watching the corners, the defenseman racing back for an icing, getting nailed and getting clipped. He was all about the hits from behind. So he wasn't wrong always.
No, he wasn't wrong always.
And I think he was a great part of Canadiana, and it's unfortunate. But, the guy's worth millions, so, he's okay. But yeah, we know there is a code when you said those people and milk and honey. See, like when you said they come here, they enjoy our milk and honey. But when Merle Haggard wrote "Fight Inside of Me," one of the lines was, "They love our milk and honey, but they preach." But so anytime you hear somebody say milk and honey, you're basically saying they're living off our welfare. They're taking everything we've got, but nothing to offer, nothing to give. So Grapes was a dinosaur.
Yeah, he was a dinosaur. I'm happy to see him out.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm happy to see him out. I was done.
Yeah,
I was just done. Yeah. But I like your angle.
He loved Jerome McGinley.
I love your angle on going on your shield, and yeah. I don't think he was bad for hockey. I think it was time. But you're right. It's boring now. It's boring.
Plus, he was kind of like the white uncle that I never had. That I never had a relative that was a member of the Legion, and could say all these terrible things, and you roll your eyes at the dinner table and you let him slide, or you make excuses to your friends when they hear him say something that was inappropriate. I never had one of those. So to me, Don Cherry was my white uncle.
Yeah.
Plus, the black players dressed better when he was on TV because they said, "Well, look how sharp he is. I got to up my pimp game."
Yeah, no doubt. He and you are a sharp dresser yourself. When you were on stage, you got to catch Kenny Nubian Disciples of Prayer. It's the last Sunday of every month.
Sunday. Yep. Next one is February 23rd, and then March is going to be the March show is going to be the Jeff Just for Laughs showcase. Cool. So we're going to put our crew in front there and hope somebody gets a call to the show. And then April is going to be our 25th anniversary.
Oh, wow, 25th. That's incredible. We got to put a bow on this show, but man, you spent your childhood in Winnipeg and Chicago.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know, Winnipeg is what? How many hours north? 6 hours north? 8 hours?
Chicago is about it's about a 10-hour drive.
10-hour drive?
Yeah, it's a 10-hour drive.
We, in the show, we would show a clip of, we talk about when we show a clip of the guy taking a dump in the planter at the mall. And that was our...
In Winnipeg?
Yeah, and that was our ode to Winnipeg. And that was the only thing that we had about Winnipeg. So what was the biggest difference before we put it in, like, of Winnipeg and Chicago growing up at the time?
Oh, everything. Race, fashion, music, food. I never, the whole time living in Chicago, I'd never seen a pierogi. And then I came to Winnipeg, and there, the high school I went to, they had pierogi day, and they were playing Ukrainian music the whole time during lunch hour. And everybody, you like your pierogies fried? You like them boiled? So, when you try something foreign, so I decided I like my pierogies boiled without the sour cream. So, and consider I was born on Ukrainian Christmas, that really should be an issue for me. The fashion was entirely different in Chicago in grade 9, grade 10. If you were a black guy and you wore jeans to school, they asked you if you were farming after work, after school. We dressed to impress. We came booted and suited, platforms and baggies and the whole thing. Whereas in Winnipeg, if you wore corduroys with a plaid shirt, everybody would ask you if you were going to a wedding. So it was different from that, and of course the racial line, and then just a different. But then again, like in Chicago, I knew guys that said, "I swear before I die, I'm gonna get me a white girl." Whereas in Winnipeg, that really wasn't an issue. They were plenty to meet. Not as segregated. Different levels of racism, but separate but equal sort of thing. So it was. I enjoy both. I mean, I love 40 below weather. I was up north in Nunavut this past weekend, and the other comics I was with, they were crying about it. But to me, it made me homesick. I miss 40 below. Because when I was a young man, I was 40 below, and there'd be booty calls to make, and you could walk in the blizzard. When you got to your destination, there was warmth. And I'd be a lot thinner if I just had a call here and there, all within walking distance of where I live now. Give me a snowstorm.
Kenny Robinson joining us, the Godfather of Canadian comedy, man. Thank you so much. Episode 2, Jimmy the Bag Show. Have a legend in the house. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
my man. What a treat it is to roll with you.
Look at all these hats.
What a treat it is to roll with you. Yeah, it's just some of them, man. It's
got them Redskins there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we didn't even get into that.
Yeah, well, I buy my son Indians and Redskins and all that stuff that'll be banned one day, so he'll have it to sell to somebody at a later date.
He will. Quick back up on my action today in the NHL. Just 5 looks for me in the NHL. Just 5 bets here. Let's quickly go over them. I'm on the Coyotes -1, Islanders money line +125, Wild -1, under 6.5 at +105 in the Capitals Avalanche game, and the Ducks +101. In NBA, I'm waiting for that Celtics number to go up, and I'm tailing the taint play of the day. Stetson -1.5 and Northern Arizona +4. We've got no show without you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the Jimmy the Bag Show. Brooke Jordan, Mr. Gozer, Dave Burke, not applicable. Q Peso, Robert Allen, not applicable. Christopher Comatini, Ryan Kozlowski, all you guys. Prince of the City, thank you guys so much. And big thank you to our guest, Kenny Robinson. We'll see you here live at the Dog and Bear every day, 11 a.m. Catch us tomorrow. Episode 3 with Tim Steves in the house.
Oh, my.
Tim Steves.
He's a card-playing fool and a hoop king.
Yeah, he is.
He loved them balls.
Much love, you guys.